As we speak, Iran and its proxies are carving a Shia crescent right through the heart of the Middle East. The regime is working day and night to export its radical revolutionary ideology, and the numbers are staggering. Iran now has 100,000 fighters in militias throughout the Middle East. Its terror proxy, Hezbollah, has 150,000 missiles and rockets pointed at Israel. It has turned every 10th building in southern Lebanon into a military site for storing or launching weapons, and at the same time, Iran is trying to transfer advanced weapons to Hezbollah and set up permanent bases in Syria. Just last week, we saw how dangerous Iran's presence in Syria really is, and how quickly it might lead to war. The plane that crashed down landed very, very close to an Israeli town. If that plane had landed on houses and killed civilians, we might be in the middle of a large-scale military conflict right now. Friends, let me be direct. There is a need for greater American involvement in making sure that Iran doesn't turn Syria into a puppet state. Every day that Iran entrenches itself in Syria brings war closer. There is no vacuum. If the US chooses not to be a major player in shaping the future of Syria, then others will. And trust me, it won't be the democratically elected representatives of the Syrian people. The Islamic Republic will replace the Islamic State and will set up a Syrian Hezbollah made up of Shia militias in Syria. It's crucial that American policymakers and opinion leaders understand how explosive the situation really is, and that they understand that Iran and Hezbollah have hidden their missiles in the heart of Lebanese and Syrian villages and have turned state infrastructure into a support system for their military machine. Israel, of course, has no desire for war, but we will do what is necessary to protect our citizens. And this may include targeting dual-use infrastructure in Lebanon. Hezbollah, as you know, is a dominant part of the Lebanese government, and therefore Lebanon is responsible for Lebanon will bear responsibility for missiles and rockets that will be fired from its territory. If we want to prevent such a conflict and the widespread damage that it will cause, then the time to act is now. The second challenge is the ongoing threat of lone wolf terror. While ISIS has lost much of its territory, it hasn't been defeated as an ideology. Terrorist organizations like ISIS and Hamas are crowdsourcing terror. They use social media platforms like Facebook to incite and inspire potential terrorists. These terrorists have struck across the globe, as you know, from New York to San Bernardino to Orlando, from Brussels to London, from Paris to Berlin. Once again, the numbers are staggering. In Israel, we've faced over 500 serious attacks since the latest wave of terror began in September 2015. We have implemented numerous steps to combat this terror, including the installation of advanced smart camera networks, increasing the number of police officers in sensitive areas, improving our online intelligence, and outlawing organizations leading the incitement, like, for example, the Islamic movement, the northern branch of the Islamic movement in Israel. These steps have led to a more than 50% decrease in the number of attacks and an even steeper decline in the number of casualties. I'm proud to say, and I hope, God's willing, you will feel it, that Jerusalem is now one of the safest capitals in the world. Israel, and I believe you know it as well, is a world expert in fighting terror. We are greatly increasing our international cooperation in this fight, especially with the United States. And that is why I am working closely with Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen to convene a first-of-its-kind international ministerial forum in Jerusalem on combating terror and incitement. We must help each other in this important fight, and that is exactly what we're doing. I believe that it's up to the United States and Israel to build a new international coalition against terror. And if we lead the way, others will follow. The third challenge facing Israel and Jewish communities around the world is the anti-Semitic hate campaign known as BDS. Now, I know that I don't have to convince you that the true goal of the BDS campaign is simple: ending Israel's existence as a Jewish state. Since being charged by Israel's Security Cabinet with leading the fight against delegitimization and BDS, I've been implementing a new, simple strategy. And that strategy is to move from defense to offense. We're tearing off the mask of BDS and exposing its true face. Are you ready for some good news? I wasn't sound like. I'll try to be more positive from now on. So the good news is that more and more world leaders are starting to realize the truth about BDS. Congress and 24 US states have passed counter-BDS legislation. Think about it. In less than 3 years, we've gone from 0 states with such legislation to half of the United States. I know that many of you were very, very involved in making this happen. I thank you. Israel thanks you. It's not just in America, and it's not just in America. The United Kingdom, Germany, France, and Spain have passed legislation and court rulings against BDS and delegitimization. Banks across Europe have closed down accounts of anti-Israel organizations. For the first time, the BDS groups are on the run. But they haven't given up, and they're being fueled by tens of millions of dollars from European governments. If we want to defeat BDS, we need to take our efforts to the next level. And that is why I am launching a new public-private partnership between the Israeli government and partners in the Jewish world. The basic model is similar to Taglit, birthright. I've earmarked tens of millions of dollars for this partnership, which will enable us to scale up our efforts and promote new initiatives. Now, it's important for me to clear up a misconception that's been spread by BDS groups like the JVP and unfortunately Israeli newspapers like Haaretz. We are not acting against anyone in any way based on their political opinions. Israel is a vibrant democracy, and criticism, even though we don't like criticism, is legitimate. What we're doing is only using our common sense and exercising our rights as a sovereign nation in the fight only against the leading BDS organizations and the leading BDS activists, those who work day and night to undermine our national security, harm our key interests, and delegitimize our existence. We're doing this proudly and we're seeing the results. I believe that the next 2 years will be critical in the fight against BDS. If we continue, as we did, to work together, we can defeat this anti-Semitic campaign. We can expose, as I said, the BDS lies, and we can share the truth about Israel. As I said, we are living in a time of great challenges, but we're also living in a time of tremendous opportunity. An opportunity to lay the groundwork for a more peaceful Middle East in the future. To get there, we'll have to take bold steps, try new approaches, and not be afraid to look reality straight in the face. For years, the Palestinian Authority has been inciting violence, spreading a culture of hate, and paying salaries to terrorists, just like Hamas and just like ISIS. For years, UNRWA has been fueling the conflict by teaching the millions of descendants of Palestinians who left in 1948 that they will return to Israel. And for years, the international community has sent Abu Mazen a clear message. There is no need for you to make concessions or even to engage in serious negotiations. We will pressure Israel and support your campaigns. And for years, the results of this approach has been the same. More violence, more terror, more hate. In such a long-running conflict, the only way to move the ball down the field is by throwing old paradigms out the window. Friends, as Public Security Minister, I've seen firsthand how the PA's incitement and terrorist payments directly encourage murderous terror attacks. Therefore, legislation conditioning continued U.S. payments to the PA on the end of PA payments to terrorists is not only logical and just, it's essential for peace. And we in Israel, exactly as in Congress, are moving forward with such legislation as well. I intend to take an important step in this direction by submitting to the Security Cabinet a decision to stop PA payments to Hamas terrorist prisoners in Israeli prisons. We don't need to wait for legislation in order to stop this money from being transferred. And this step will continue my decision that was already implemented to stop all visits to Hamas prisoners from Gaza. We must take away all of the privilege of Hamas terrorist prisoners as long as Hamas refuses to return our missing soldiers and civilians. Dear friends, as we celebrate both Israel's 70th birthday and the 70th anniversary of the Israel-diaspora relationship, we have the privilege and the duty to look ahead to the next 70 years. We have the opportunity to build a more peaceful and secure future for the people of Israel and for all the peoples of the region. I look forward to working with you to build this future. Thank you again for all that you do. Thank you for all that you do for Israel, for the U.S.-Israel relationship, and for the entire Jewish people. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Toda rabah. See you in Jerusalem.